All right, Friday afternoon surprise. 49ers finished up practice for the week. They jetted off to Tampa Bay, and then we found out that they worked out 3 quarterbacks, which is really, really unusual after the practice week. Now, I wouldn't say that it's something that doesn't make sense, because it makes sense. Mac Jones has been hobbled. Brock Purdy is out for this game against Tampa Bay, but you've got to wonder, the 49ers thinking about making a signing at the 11th hour ahead of this game. Quick look at San Francisco City Hall tonight. I was just on my way back home from dinner. It is lit up in 49ers colors. Perfect, because I was on my way to have a 49ers discussion about these 3 quarterbacks who the 49ers worked out. Will they sign one of them on Saturday ahead of this game against Tampa Bay? Also Buccaneers colors, I guess. They've got some gold. They've got some red. If we want to look at the 49ers workout list from today, this is what it looks like. So the quarterbacks, you might have heard of 2 of them. They have not had a lot of success at the NFL level, but that's why they're available right now. You can see down here, Nathan Peterman, Desmond Ridder, and the third one has not played in the NFL, but he has played in the UFL, Quinton Dormady. The receivers on this workout list for the 49ers are presumably brought in so the quarterbacks would have targets to throw to. But just the sheer fact that the 49ers have operated a workout, a tryout, after the practice week is over, ahead of the game, has to raise some eyebrows. Tomorrow, the 49ers are going to make their pregame roster moves. So they're going to have to announce their elevations from the practice squad. They're going to have to announce any activations, and we expect at least one. Malik Mustafa from the physically unable to perform list. And what Malik is going to do is take up a 53-man roster spot. So the 49ers are going to have to move somebody off the 53-man roster. And if they sign one of these quarterbacks to the 53-man ahead of 4 p.m. Eastern time, so 1 p.m. Pacific, that quarterback would be eligible to dress for the game on Sunday. This week, let's just go through what happened over the course of a little bit more than a week. We can say about 10 days. 49ers beat the Rams at the beginning of this month. Mac Jones is seriously hobbled throughout the course of that game. Takes that massive hit from Byron Young. Doesn't look like he's going to get up. He does get up. He finishes the game. The 49ers win. That came after Brock Purdy had aggravated his toe injury. The fact that the 49ers won bought them some time, at least in their minds, as far as the speed with which they would have to work Brock Purdy back. They're 4-1 after this win against the Rams, and they're saying, okay, we're going to build a bridge until Purdy is back to full health. But in the win against the Rams, Mac Jones also hurt his oblique on the very final snap. So Monday, media got to see a very tiny window of practice, and Mac Jones wasn't throwing during that window of practice. Wednesday of this week, the 49ers had a fuller practice. There was a bigger media window. Mac Jones was actually throwing quite a bit. Thursday, though, the longest practice of the week, Mac Jones went back to not throwing at all. And Kyle Shanahan, after practice, confirmed that he did not throw during 11-on-11 work. He said that, I think Mac is going to be ready. We believe he's going to be ready for the game on Sunday, but he was unable to throw today. That, for anybody, that should raise some alarm bells, right? Today was out on that practice field. If we want to take a look at video of Mac Jones actually throwing on the practice field today, I am more than happy to share it. We've just got to get it up on the screen. Here it is. This is Mac at practice with Adrien Martinez. Mac is number 10. This is what he was doing during the open window practice. He was, in fact, throwing. So technically progress over what happened on Thursday when he didn't throw, when Mick Lombardi, the quarterback's coach wearing the white shirt, had to throw. Anyway, long story short is that Mac Jones is questionable for the game. But after this practice, we found out through the NFL transaction wire that the 49ers had worked out those quarterbacks. Now, normally you work out players on Monday or Tuesday especially after a game, ahead of the practice week on Wednesday for a standard Sunday game. You don't normally work players out on Friday. It's just not a usual thing. I'm not going into conspiracy theories here at all. I'm just pointing out patterns of what's happening so we can predict what might happen next. And here's Mac Jones throwing a fade into the end zone and pumping his fist. He's excited about that pass. So you can see Mac was in good spirits. Got to cover all sides of this. Mac in good spirits at practice, but obviously still hobbled just based on the workload of the week. It was after that, though, that we got this information that Dormady, that Nathan Peterman, that Desmond Ridder had all worked out for the 49ers. And now I will wait with bated breath, not really, but with partially bated breath until tomorrow, until the deadline tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific time, to see if the 49ers sign any of those quarterbacks. Now, the chatter online is just going to be about how bad Nathan Peterman and Desmond Ridder is. Yeah, I get it. The guys haven't been good. Peterman actually threw 5 interceptions in his first half of NFL play when he was first a starter for the Bills all those years ago. Desmond Ridder had an NFL leading 7 fumbles a couple seasons ago. He's been a guy that turns it over a lot. Quinton Dormady hasn't played in the league. He's only been in the UFL. This is not news, though, because these guys are good or bad quarterbacks. This is news because the 49ers felt the need to work out quarterbacks on a Friday. Okay? We're tracking Mac Jones operating within the context of an offense that's throwing 40.4 times per game, which leads the NFL. We are tracking a 49ers quarterback room, which is getting beaten up. We are tracking a team that's somehow 4-1, despite throwing so many times, despite all of these injuries, especially the ones at the most important position. We are trying to project how the 49ers can continue navigating the treacherous road forward. We have watched the quarterback who's scheduled to start on Sunday not be able to throw on Thursday before throwing a little bit on Friday. And now we find out that the 49ers are working out quarterbacks. I don't care if it's Nathan Peterman or Joe Montana. The 49ers are working out quarterbacks. And it hit our desk, it hit my desk here after the practice week, which is unusual. So now we get to see if they sign one of these guys, and the opportunity to do so might be tomorrow before that deadline, which obviously hits at 4:00 Eastern, and we expect the 49ers to make some other moves. If you want a little bit of a recap, Brock Purdy was working off on the side today. He was pushing one of those weighted sleds around. I think the toe is progressing. The Rams game changed the calculus for the 49ers. The fact that they were able to notch that very unlikely upset over the Rams meant that they didn't have to think about rushing Brock Purdy back. You're 4-1. You're at the top of the NFC. Tampa Bay is injured too. Maybe the 49ers can find a way to squeak to 5-1 this weekend. I've got my 49ers Bucs prediction. It's going to be dropping tomorrow morning on YouTube. But if you want the written version, that one's already out. It's up on the San Francisco Standard. There you go. It's popped up there on the screen. Tim has his prediction too. We're on opposing ends of this prediction, by the way. Same score, but inverted winner picked between Tim and me up on the Standard. A busy week of coverage after the 49ers beat the Rams and are getting ready to play Tampa Bay. But here we are entering yet another very dramatic Saturday of roster reveals. I mean, that's been the theme this year, right? The 49ers have played a lot of stuff close to the vest. Go back to week 1. Kyle Shanahan had 99% of you fooled. I will not say 100% because he didn't have this channel fooled, and I'm sure that he didn't have all of the viewers fooled, but I was getting like hate emails over the course of those 2 days saying that I was wrong about Christian McCaffrey, that he's not going to play, that, you don't know what you're talking about. And of course he played. Kyle Shanahan successfully fooled you. I think the 49ers realized that their margins are really thin this year. They're not going to just blow teams out of the water. They don't have the health nor I think the personnel to do that just because they're so young at this point. They're still trying to learn their way in the NFL. Anyway, with the margins being as thin as they are for the 49ers, they have looked for every single competitive advantage possible. Week 1, they were able to obscure whether or not somebody like Christian McCaffrey would be ready to go for the game against the Seahawks. And they ended up winning very narrowly. So I think that everything that Kyle Shanahan did and what has maybe so far been his greatest coaching job yet. I mean, the first 5 games, it's been insane for the 49ers to win as many times as they have, given how short-handed they are. But part of that coaching job has been the obfuscation process entering these games. I think that the 49ers obfuscated in a different direction ahead of the game against the Rams. They ruled out Brock Purdy. They ruled out Ricky Pearsall. They ruled out Juwan Jennings a good 30 hours before kickoff. And guess who sleptwalked their way through the first quarter of that game? The Rams. I think that the Rams might have been lulled to sleep by the fact that the 49ers ruled those players out so early. I certainly know that some fans were lulled to sleep. I might have even been a little bit lulled to sleep. I didn't think the 49ers were going to win that game. Then they show up at SoFi and they go up 14-0, and that was the cushion that they needed to hold on and win. They actually never trailed in that game against the Rams. Fun trivia. They almost went down 21-20, but the Rams missed the extra point when it was blocked by Jordan Elliott. So we've seen, I think, very interesting levels of gamesmanship in the very nearest days leading up to games, at least twice from the 49ers this year. This whole quarterback situation this week, it might be another page taken from that book. What we won't know until we see this actually all play out, because right now the 49ers are holding Mac Jones's status very, very close to the vest. But the clues that we do have, the fact that he didn't throw on Thursday, maybe the 49ers are just putting out a front out there. Who knows? But the fact that he didn't throw on Thursday, threw a little bit on Friday, but the way that Kyle Shanahan's talking about this, he's got multiple injuries. The fact that they worked out quarterbacks after, the fact that they didn't talk about working out quarterbacks during the press conference, that information didn't come out until after the media was gone. All this, all I could do is identify patterns, and it is unusual. Adrien Martinez is the backup that the 49ers had at practice this week. If you want to know a little bit more about Adrien, we can play actually his video. Let's listen to the Adrien Martinez interview, because Adrien Martinez is definitely a man of the hour. Hanford zone, Clovis West zone, 49ers QB2, Adrien Martinez. I've got the video here. We're going to get Adrien Martinez from the 49ers locker room up on the screen as we navigate all of this quarterback drama surrounding the 49ers.
Well, I wouldn't say the process changes too much for me. I think once I set foot here in the Bay, I wanted to attack learning the offense and getting to know guys and our coaches. So that process started on day one. And even over the last few weeks, like you said, getting called up, I think the job of a quarterback or of any guy on this team is to prepare like you're playing, you know what I mean? So I think that's helped me in that transition of getting called up.
And obviously you got like Mac, when he was in OTAs and had been here for a little while, he's like, hey, I'm still trying to figure all this out, still understandably. I mean, I'm sure you're kind of have to be somewhere in that process. I guess, how would you describe, how much you think you've absorbed of this offense and how much you can handle?
Yeah, well, I feel confident, obviously. And I think that process happens every week when you go through a game plan, starting on Monday and then Wednesday, the first real practice, and you're absorbing the game plan, and it's a process. Today's, what is it? It's Friday at 2:37, and we don't play until Sunday at 4:25. You know what I mean? So you take up all the time you can in processing and understanding our game plan, what they're trying to do, and I feel confident in it.
What's the pass on? What?
Come on, bro.
Given the situation ahead of you with the guys, both those guys being injured, have you had to accelerate your learning process?
I wouldn't phrase it that way. Like I said, I think since day one, I've accelerated that process. It's there's an urgency there, and that's just part of it.
That's been there from the beginning.
Definitely.
Can you give us an idea of just what the UFL did for you and your confidence and your career?
Yeah, well, I love the UFL, and I think it's a league that is necessary and a league that gave me an opportunity to bounce back. I make a joke when people ask me about it. I call it professional JUCO, but it really is like bounce backs. There's first-round picks, third-round picks, undrafted guys like myself, and the UFL gave me an opportunity to play 12 games, show what I can do, and show that I'm an NFL guy. So it was an awesome experience. Obviously, a lot of close friends and teammates from it, and we won, so that was a lot of fun too.
Adrian, when Mac is on the ground last week grabbing at his leg, I think most people assumed, okay, it's time for Adrien Martinez to play. What are you thinking there on the sideline?
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. You know, I was like, okay, it's time to go in, and you know, that was the assumption I had after that moment. And then Mac, you know, the warrior he is, he gets up, you know, he fist pumps the crowd and comes running to the sideline. So that's my guy, you know. So it's awesome to see him getting up like that, and I was ready, you know, and would be ready, and that's part of my role.
I was going to ask you, are the emotions like excitement, butterflies? You know?
There's always excitement, you know, and I think if you don't have a couple butterflies, you're not human. You know what I mean? Like this is the NFL. This is playing football, and whether I was playing in Pop Warner or at Nebraska or K-State or the UFL, like I'm excited to go out there and play. I think it's as simple as that.
How much have you learned from Brock and Mac?
Yeah, it's a fun room. You know, this is the first room where we're all like around the same age, so it's pretty cool that way. We have similar experiences that way, and they both played a lot of football, a lot of NFL football. So they have valuable insight, and how they see the game is always interesting for me.
So the rookies have talked about going out to dinner. There's obviously that age commonality there. Is that same kind of dynamic in the QB room where you guys can even hang out off the field?
Oh yeah, I'd say so. I think we've developed a pretty good camaraderie. I mean, I've only been here 5 weeks or so, but it wasn't hard to assimilate. I think those guys make it easy in the room. I think Mick Lombardi does a great job of kind of establishing that culture, and obviously what this team and organization does in general. You get that feel coming into the locker room that, you know, it's a brotherhood.
How did Mick look on tape with some of the passes he had to throw yesterday?
Hey, Mick played quarterback in college, right? So he can sling it a little bit.
You have a lot of zone read experience, obviously, and this team hasn't had much of that since Trey left. But I guess what can you guess your history as that type of a quarterback that can run the ball as well as throw it?
Yeah, you know, I think that's always a big part of my game. That's there at the ready, and you know, again, if that opportunity comes up, I'll definitely be ready to run a few of those.
All right, thanks, Adrien.
So that last question there from Cam Inman about the zone read, Adrien Martinez was a dual threat quarterback through and through in his college career that seemed to last forever. Every single time I looked up at SportsCenter and saw college highlights, it'd be Adrien Martinez, and I would always say, is that guy in like his 8th year? Like, how does he have this much eligibility? He went from Nebraska to Kansas State, and it seemed like a really, really long time. And then I found out that he was actually from the San Joaquin Valley, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. But I always remember him in college as being somebody who just ran away from defenses. I mean, a really, really good athlete. The 49ers obviously had some of that in their playbook, and it was much more featured back when the transition to Trey Lance was happening. You have to wonder that if Mac Jones is knocked out of this game or is unable to go on Sunday, and this goes to Adrien Martinez, the 49ers have some of that in the playbook. Purdy is much more mobile than Jones, so I think the 49ers have some designed run stuff for Brock Purdy, but I think that you almost have to have some designed run stuff for Adrien Martinez. The big wild card in everything here is, what would Adrien Martinez be able to do from the pocket as a passer in an NFL game? That's the very first day he was with the 49ers at practice. Everything was new to him footwork wise about what Shanahan was teaching. They had to go through stuff a couple times. I think he's picked it up remarkably well over the course of the past month and a half or so. But once the lights come on in a game, it's a totally different setup. You don't know how the guy's going to perform. Like back in 2022, the 49ers knew that they had something in practice with Brock Purdy. He was impressing Fred Warner. He was impressing Kyle Shanahan, impressed them enough between practice and the preseason to earn a spot on the 53-man roster. But nobody knew what Purdy would be until he did it when the lights were on in the regular season, when he entered against the Miami Dolphins, and then the next week when he started against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then when he broke his rib and still delivered the division clincher on Thursday night on a short week against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we found out very quick that Brock Purdy was very, very good, but it took actual games for that to happen. Adrien Martinez has yet to play in an NFL game, but he's got a ton of in-game college and UFL experience. He was actually the MVP of the UFL. So if he plays, it is a total blank slate for me. All I know is that the 49ers have a very athletic quarterback in Adrien Martinez. And I do also know that of the QBs that they worked out today, Desmond Ridder ran a 4.52 40, so he's also very, very athletic. Somebody asked on our little private group chat, if you're a member of the channel, you can get on the private group chat. I think it was Stacy. Stacy always asks really good questions. Stacy's question was, how would signing a QB in the 11th hour actually play out? It's not like they're going to be able to learn the playbook in 24 hours. So how would they use that QB? Just to hand the ball off to CMC? And I said it would be to be an emergency backup, right? So if they're not confident in Mac's health right now, they feel that they need one more body, because here's the thing. If Mac is one hit away from being knocked out, so even if he is on track to play, but if he's one hit away from being knocked out against the blitz-happy defense, it's only Adrien Martinez standing in between you and your 2022 NFC Championship game situation at Philadelphia, where you've got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield as quarterback. Ugly situation, right? The 49ers couldn't move the ball. You would have rather had a statue who actually had quarterback credentials in that QB spot after both Purdy and Josh Johnson went down. You'd have rather had that than having Christian McCaffrey have to run crazy stuff and then throwing ugly passes downfield. It's no offense to Christian. It's just the reality of the situation. You need somebody who actually is a QB back there. So I think that there's a chance the 49ers sign one of these guys. If they have enough doubts about Mac Jones' status, they'll sign one of these guys to the 53-man roster so he can play on Sunday, or dress on Sunday, at least as the emergency third quarterback. Doesn't take up a 48-man roster spot as the emergency third quarterback, so that in case two go down, in case Mac goes down, and in case Adrien Martinez goes down, they can have somebody who's standing there and handing the ball off to Christian McCaffrey and maybe executing a couple easy flat passes or just very basic passing plays to maintain some sense of credibility from the quarterback position, so the defense can't just key in on everything as if it's going to be a run or a crazy trick play. That would be I think the impetus for what the 49ers have done here for working out these quarterbacks. Now, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this is the decision that the 49ers won't make until tomorrow based on how Mac Jones tolerated the flight today. The 49ers probably close to landing in Tampa at this point. I could even track their flight. Look, we can go to FlightAware. Let's see where the 49ers are. Maybe this is something that won't be determined until they land and they see how Mac Jones is feeling. But we're going to go. No other 49ers channel, you're getting an update on the 49ers progress toward the visiting city. But I'm going to FlightAware, route, SJC, destination. What's the destination? Tampa, TPA, Tampa Bay International, or Tampa International. Okay, we're searching. There are no direct flights between Tampa and San Jose in scheduled airline service. There's a private jet that made the trip today at 8:45 a.m. and landed at 5. And there's a big United plane, a Boeing 777 that's en route. It's landing in 12 minutes. See, here the 49ers are. He is ready. We can track their flight. They've made it across the whole country, a trip that is taking 4 hours and 50 minutes. It's arriving in 12 minutes. Look, we could even zoom in. We'd see their plane descending here at the Tampa airport. It's supposed to land at 11:39 p.m., which is in 1 minute. So the 49ers are about to land. We can even, look, they had to take this weird approach. They had to go north, then cut down, loop around St. Petersburg. That's where like Tropicana Field, where the Rays played until the roof got blown off by the hurricane. Now they're on approach into Tampa. They're at 2,900 feet. They're slowing down. They're descending. They're going to land here in about a minute or two. And then they're going to head to the hotel, and they'll probably see how some of their injured guys responded to the flight, to the air pressure changes, to all that good stuff. And wait, is Adrien Martinez up on the screen? Sorry. Here, I didn't mean to do that. This was meant to be up on the screen. Here, sorry. That was a mistake on my part. But you could see here, the 49ers had to take this little roundabout approach, and they're about to land into Tampa. So they're going to see how Mac Jones feels after the flight, and maybe that's going to determine whether or not they bring aboard one of these quarterbacks. Nathan Peterman being one of them, Desmond Ridder being another one of them, or the third QB whom the 49ers worked out is Quinton Dormady. We got pictures of all three guys. This is Peterman, that's Dormady, and that's Desmond Ridder. All three quarterbacks whom the 49ers worked out today. Didn't think that we'd get to tracking the flight, but maybe that is an important variable here. Got people talking on the chat. And I am ready to answer some questions. Yeah, you guys were just looking at Adrien Martinez. I'm sorry, as I was talking about the 49ers flight plan. Well, the good news is that I noticed, and I was able to get that up on the screen for you guys. So we're all good. I'm ready for some good questions now. The 49, I mean, ownership might have a private jet or they might lease out a jet, but you've got to carry a football team. It's not just like a 737. You need to have a wide body Boeing 777 to carry the entire team, which is the roster, the coaching staff, the support staff, all the pads, all the equipment, the sideline equipment goes into the cargo hold. You need a massive, massive jet. So the team doesn't own that massive jet. They have United Airlines fly them around. That is the official airline of the 49ers. I will be flying United as well tomorrow to Tampa Bay. I'll see if the 49ers quarterback who worked out for the team today is on my flight tomorrow. Literally, like there's one direct flight. It's at 9 a.m. from San Francisco to Tampa. If they decide they want to sign someone, they're not putting them on the red eye tonight. They'll put them on the 9 a.m. flight tomorrow. I would guess. I'm speculating right now. So if I'm sitting next to Nathan Peterman or Desmond Ridder tomorrow on my flight, I'll let you guys know, because it probably will mean that the 49ers are signing a quarterback the day before their game against Tampa Bay to be an emergency contingency option on Sunday. Steven asks, why not invest in solid O-linemen? Do you really think that there are O-linemen just sitting around unemployed right now who would improve the situation of the 49ers? As if like the 49ers are the only team, like we're the only ones thinking about, oh my God, they've got to improve the offensive line. Go sign somebody. Yeah, you can't just create a player and manufacture a player, have him spawn on the sidewalk and sign him to make the offensive line better. The truth of the matter is the 49ers pass protection actually ranks above average in this league. Like, I don't know if you've been watching some of these games of other teams, even respected offensive lines like Philadelphia's are giving up a lot of pressure. Like defensive lines in general are outpacing offensive lines, which means that there's a shortage of quality offensive linemen relative to what they have to block on the defensive line, which means that your chances of having a guy that can improve what you already have coming from the street is very low. So the 49ers have invested in the offensive line. It's just there's a level of realism that you have to subscribe to when it comes to results. I mean, Trent Williams got record money. He's playing at an above average level. Trent's been fine. Colton McKivitz, they just re-signed him before the start of the regular season. He's playing good football at right tackle. But even though Colton McKivitz is playing well, he still gave up a big pressure to Byron Young that blew up Mac Jones, because there is no perfect lineman in this league. They're all going to give up pressure at an inherent disadvantage to defensive linemen. The 49ers invested a third-round pick in Dominic Pooney. They picked a starter in this draft in Connor Colby. They don't want him starting right now, though. But Ben Barch got hurt. But thankfully, at least they have somebody to plug into that role. So, I mean, the whole idea that they don't invest in the offensive line is just categorically not true. And I think so many of these questions are based on the fallacious assumption that there are better players out there just walking around, like linemen without a team walking around, when all these teams are very competitive and they're trying to win a Super Bowl, guys. Like, there's not something that you're noticing that they aren't. They've signed who they can, and they've added who they can to make this line as good as possible under the lid of the salary cap. And, just complaining about it from a fan standpoint without having the expertise of knowing exactly what's going on, complaining about it in generic terms is not going to make the matter any better. This is true. John Feliciano is currently unemployed, but John Feliciano's been out of the game for a little bit. 49ers would have to determine that he's going to be a better option than what they have on the roster right now. And maybe at some point over the course of this next 2 months, they'll determine that. Maybe they'll get to a point where it's like, okay, well, we need to make this move for John Feliciano. I don't know. But it's definitely not a slam dunk, especially with Ben Barch, who was playing well, scheduled to come back soon for San Francisco. Why did Brock not travel to LA? Because he's trying to rehab his toe, and it's the same thing. We were just talking about the 49ers flying to Tampa, and they're probably going to evaluate Mac Jones to see how the flight affected him. I mean, flights are exhausting. They're not particularly good if you're trying to heal something on your body. And they didn't want to fly Brock Purdy down to LA just to be in a pressurized cabin and have to fly back when he could be at home resting his toe, doing more rehab. Seems like a lot of strain to put an injured quarterback under. So a lot of times injured players will not travel with the team so they can get extra rehab work in back home. The 49ers leave trainers back in the facility to work with those guys. So it's just simple. They want Brock Purdy to heal up to 100% as soon as possible. And for that reason, he didn't fly back with the 49ers to LA. Kyle hates O-linemen so much that he's given Trent Williams the largest contract in O-line history, not once, but twice. He's used the first-round pick on a tackle back in 2018 on Mike McGlinchey. He had to replace a first-round talent in Joe Staley with a trade for Trent Williams. He's used big money on centers twice in Weston Richburg and Alex Mack. Unfortunately, both of those guys retired, one medically, one because Alex didn't want to play any longer, but they were both big money centers for the 49ers. I mean, if Kyle Shanahan truly hated the offensive line, he wouldn't have invested as much in it as he has. 49ers fans need to become a little less spoiled, a little less insular. You're so focused on yourselves. It's always like, oh my God, the world is crashing. This offensive line is terrible. Nobody's investing here. Look at the rest of the league. Just do yourself a favor and look at the rest of the league. They're complaining about the same stuff, but they're complaining about it on a greater scale, or they should be on a greater scale, because the 49ers have had more success than 97% of the league over the course of the entire Shanahan-Lynch era, really. So, I mean, all this stuff requires a little bit more perspective than I think a lot of people seem to be capable of giving it. Diehard Niners 101 says Martinez UFL play was awesome. He won the MVP of the league. Desmond Ridder is the best option right now out of the signings for the 49ers. Well, Ritter's the youngest option, 26. He was in the same draft class as Brock Purdy. He went in the third round, dropped from the first to the third. It was expected by some to go up really high. Dropped down to the third, played for the Falcons, turned the ball over a lot, and then was eventually traded away from the Falcons, has been a journeyman ever since, and has now signed with the 49ers. I believe the Vikings were the most recent team for Desmond Ridder, who was also with the Raiders last season. Mike asked me, couldn't they have signed a quarterback today and it doesn't show up until tomorrow? Well, unless word leaks out, I think, an agent would have talked by now. Maybe the 49ers said keep it quiet. But yeah, there is a chance it won't show up until the transaction wire tomorrow, because the transaction wire only included the actual workouts today. So back to the list. This is where I got it from. This is where the news comes from. This was on the transaction wire. I'm going to look at the same transaction wire tomorrow, and we'll see if the 49ers have signed one of the QBs whom they worked out today. Quarterback intrigue all across the board. Any more questions? A lot of people are talking about potential trades. Hold up on the trades right now. 49ers are about to play a really good big game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they move to 5-1, especially given the injury questions that they have been dealing with, I think there will be an even greater sense of urgency and sense of confidence in going for a splash move if you're the 49ers. I mean, imagine if they beat Tampa Bay. That is one of the tier 2, tier 3 teams. They've already beaten 2 of them on the road, Seattle and the Rams. Imagine if within the first 6 weeks of the season, the 49ers have 3 wins over tier 2 or 3 teams on the road. Tampa Bay, Seattle, and LA. And they're 5-1, and they're in the number 1 spot in the NFC. And the NFC seems to be wide open in many different ways. What if the 49ers say, now's the time to push a lot of chips in? Now, they would still need a trade partner, and a trade partner might not materialize for another week or 2. Some teams have to let go of misplaced hope, like the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe the Titans even have some hope. Who knows? They shouldn't, but they do. Late October can be really, really interesting for the 49ers if they keep on stacking wins. Let's put it that way. All right, the 3 quarterback workouts worked out today for San Francisco. The prediction is going to be coming out tomorrow. If you want to check it out, it is right here for you. 49ers and Bucs, the standards 5 fast predictions. Go ahead and check it out. I've got to get going. I will talk to you in the morning with my actual score prediction for this game. You can guess if I'm going to say 49ers or Bucs. It was close in my mind. I grappled with it for a while, but happy to bring you this unexpected news on a Friday night.